Bizarre Brain Comics. He-Man, ooh, and the Masters of the Universe, ooh. He-Man. Hello. This is Gary here for Bizarre Brain Comics. A little tea. And this is where I like to break down some artwork and some stories from some of the older comics. Well, this time, it's not exactly a comic, but it's sort of a comic. Back in the 80s, when He-Man and the Masters of the Universe were a real big thing. Golden Books had a whole published a bunch of little books, little story books of the Masters of the Universe with various writers and artists. I just have 3 of them right here, and we're going to talk about one of them. And that one we're going to talk about is this one. They're not numbered, so is this one here, Caverns of Fear. I've got some others here, different artists, but they have the same cover artist. This is the Thief of Castle Grayskull and Meteor Monsters. So we'll just take a little look here. Like I said, they're almost comics. They're not quite, but writers and artists are comic creators themselves, so for the most part. So here are Masters of the Universe, Caverns of Fear by Mary Carey as the writer and Al McWilliams as the artist. And with the cover paintings by Gino D'Achille. I guess that's how you pronounce it, his name. And Gino D'Achille is from 1935 to 2017. He was born in London, and unfortunately, I could find very little information on him. He was an artist and illustrator, and he did many sci-fi and fantasy book covers and Western book covers, as well as doing some Vampirella covers. And he was an excellent painter. The writer, Mary Carey. I don't know why I'm having difficulty saying that. It's from 1925 to 1994, and she's an English American writer, and she wrote a series of youth books, known as the Three Investigators, and gained some notoriety for that. She also wrote novelizations of Disney movies. I don't know what all else, because there wasn't a whole lot on her either. But the artist is Al McWilliams from 1916. He was the oldest one of the bunch, to 1993. And he's an American artist and credited for creating Danny Raven in the Dateline Danger comic strip as the first Black American lead character of an American comic strip. Unfortunately, they didn't have a date for that. He attended the New York School of Fine and Applied Arts in 1993 and 1934. Ooh, I don't know where I got that. In 1934. And in 1935, he worked as an art assistant on the comic strip Tim Tyler's Luck. And he started doing illustrations for pulp magazines in 1938. And he also began doing comic book work for Dell in 1938. And some of the stuff he worked on, some of the characters he worked on, was for Crime Busters and Speed Bolton, Air Ace, and Stratosphere Jim. During World War II, in the Army, he participated in the D-Day invasion and won a Bronze Star. After the war, he worked on many war titles, which seemed natural, I guess. Later, he worked on the Star Trek book for Gold Key, and also did some Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon, as well as horror stuff for Warren Publishing. A whole bunch of other things, but I first saw his work in Star Trek way back when. Okay. See my figures here? Those are the only Master of the Universe figures I've got. I wish I had a He-Man, but by the time I was trying to get them, they weren't producing them for a while anymore. Oh well, let's take a look at Masters of the Universe.
He-Man, aha!
Okay, here we are, Masters of the Universe. Here's the Caverns of Fear. Just so you know, so you can see some of the others. This is with the cover painting by Achille. Unfortunately, they don't give credit for him in here. I had to look him up. And I found one reference for him. And then I saw a bunch of his paintings. And then I recognized his work, because I have, over the years, I've had, and still have some of them, several of the fantasy sword and sorcery books with his cover painting on them. I said, oh, now I recognize him. And then I took another look at this, and then I could see it. But you can see a nice clean. It's not as dynamic as some of the others. I have a few other of these books as with different cover artists, and I thought I might cover one of those later. Some different interior artists too. Some really nice cover paintings. Now, of course, these were published in the early to mid 80s, and they were for younger readers. So the stories are much simpler than you might get for a standard comic book. And it's published, as I said, you see here, Golden. Golden Books is part of Western Publishing, so it's the same people who publish Gold Key Comics, or used to publish Gold Key Comics. And so I think some of these creators worked for them too. I know, as I said, I know Al McWilliams did. This is the only story, at least the one that I've got, that Al McWilliams did the interior art for. A Golden Super Adventure book. $1.95. Probably be $7 for this thing now. Let me see. Now you can get a little example of McWilliams' art. And it's funny because I used to get Al McWilliams and the artist Al Williamson confused. Just their names. I didn't get their artwork confused, because Al Williamson was a superior artist. But I'm not denigrating Al McWilliams at all. Here we start out. He-Man is riding Battle Cat. They're just, it's a little bit, have a little bit of peacetime here, and he's out gallivanting basically for a workout past Castle Grayskull. It says, as dawn broke, He-Man, powerful foe of the forces of evil, raced across the plains of Eternia astride the mighty Battle Cat. For the moment at least, the strife-torn planet seemed almost peaceful. So He-Man seized the time to give the fighting tiger a vigorous workout. There they are. And Battle Cat stops right there at this well. And He-Man teases him a little bit and draws some water for him, for the cat. Then he hears, but you can see here, this is why it's kind of comic book. That's not as many panels and not as much panel-to-panel storytelling, just a little bit here, but it is still very much comic bookish, even though you see here, both the dialogue and description is all in text here, but it also has dialogue balloons, so it is very comic bookish. So, what is this I hear? Yes, He-Man. Almost called him Superman. He-Man hears the sound of battles. Warriors in combat? We shall soon see. Yeah, he hears it coming up from the well, so he descends. Now, Al McWilliams, he is a fine artist. For some reason, I was never terribly thrilled, and actually, this is probably the best work of his that I've seen, that I like anyway, that I like best. But he's a fine artist, good, excellent draftsman. His good storytelling, and when he needs to be, can be very dynamic when he needs to be. So he descends the rope, and the well is over a cavern with a stream, which is where the well water comes from. And you see these pterosaurs. I don't know why they'd have pterosaurs flying in the cavern, but they are. Gets to the bottom, and he's in the water, and suddenly Merman comes up out of the water and snags him. It was Merman, the dreaded Sea Lord. He tried to drag He-Man under the surface of the stream. Yeah, but he just slugs him, knocks him out cold, which he brought down on Merman's head. Boom, thwack. Then, while Merman is unconscious, he takes off towards the sound of battle. And there he is. He comes in sight of what's going on. He stops, and it's, what the heck is going on here? It's Teela fighting Skeletor, the evil Skeletor. In that chamber, He-Man saw his archenemy Skeletor, Lord of Destruction. He was battling the warrior maiden Teela, who had seen him steal into the well and followed him into the caverns. He-Man, thank heaven you're here, Teela, Teela cried. Skeletor plans to enter Grayskull through this cavern. Clank, clank. That's kind of an awkward position for Skeletor, but it's well drawn. It just seems an awkward position. But Beastman leaps upon his back from the shadows. I always kind of liked Beastman. And you'll not stop me this day, Beastman. And He-Man kicks him loose, and he topples backward and falls into a pit. Yay! And that's the last we see of him for a while. Then, snatching up his own sword, he goes to confront Skeletor, giving Teela a respite. But while he's fighting Skeletor, what's his name? Trapjaw. Yeah, Trapjaw. He grabs onto Teela, but she's a trained fighter, and she flips him over her shoulder. See, it's very well drawn, well constructed. Even though it's simple because it's in a cavern. Background is good. Background's good. I know he's real good at doing detailed backgrounds when he needs to. So He-Man turns to confront Trapjaw, who is holding Teela to make He-Man surrender. But just at that moment, Man-at-Arms comes up behind Trapjaw and gives him a good whack with his mace, destroying his artificial arm. And the flying hero Stratos zooms in, grabs Tila, and whisks her off to safety, while He-Man lunges to take another mighty swing at Skeletor, and Skeletor and his cronies all disappear in a green mist. Well, there they are. They're all alone left alone in the cavern. What to do? Well, we're all safe, thanks to that. So He-Man says, we've got to keep Skeletor out of here. So he starts smashing the rocks with his sword, and causes a cave in, and they run for safety as rocks tumble down and block that passage, so Skeletor can never get into Castle Grayskull that way. And they rush for safety. That's all. Some fine work, nice line work, good anatomy. It's really nice. It's just, I can't put my finger on it. I was just never overly thrilled with it. He's a perfectly fine artist. I just was never overly thrilled with his artwork. I don't know why. And here they are, gone back up the well. They're all safe. And He-Man is reunited with Battle Cat, and everyone heads home, knowing that Castle Grayskull is safe from the machinations of the evil Skeletor once again. And there we go, loping off on Battle Cat with Tila. We'll be ready for him, replies Tila, as a strange quiet fell over the plains of Eternia. And this is just a short little story. As you can see, it's a very simple story, and the other books are just as simple. I actually like the art in this one better, but that's just my personal preference. There is absolutely nothing wrong with Al McWilliams. He was a fine artist. Oh, in this one we actually get to see Prince Adam. And we get to see him transform into He-Man. And had some, as you can see, I love these covers. That's one of the reasons I got them. I just love the cover paintings. Beautifully painted and well composed. Right in the heat of the action, just like you're like very eye catching, and as I can say, they're quasi comics. They're all nicely done. As I said, there's not a whole lot to the stories, but they're not intended to be, just to have fun for young readers. And so it's not very complex for older readers, but it's sure fun. Not story-wise, not as good as some of the comics, regular comic books, but a decent little production. I like it, and I hope you enjoyed this little gallivant down memory lane. If you happen to have been a kid in the 80s and liked He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, maybe you had one of these books, or all of them. It's just a fun read. If you do, I hope you do. Hope you liked it. Share it with friends who like Masters of the Universe. Share it with your comic book friends. And subscribe if you haven't already. Please do. And remember, comics are art. Skeletor.